I'm Nealon. My clients call me the credit repair superhero. So payment history is the biggest portion of your FICO score. So your FICO score is broken into 5 different pieces. 35% of your overall score is dedicated to payment history. Now payment history looks at all of the payments you've made on all installment accounts and revolving accounts over the last 7 years. So start today and rewind 7 full years. That's how much payment history is calculating into your credit score. Now a lot of people ask me, well Sean, I've had this credit card for the last 15 years. Do you mean that I'm not getting credit for all 15 years worth of payment history? Yes, unfortunately I'm telling you that. You don't get credit for all 15 years worth of payment history. Length of credit history, 15% of your score. That'll take into account the entire length you've had the account open. But as far as the actual physical month-to-month payments on all of your accounts, only looks at 7 years. Now payment history is a what have you done for me lately type system. The more recent your payments are, the more they factor into your credit score. In fact, so much as the mortgage payment I made this month is worth more than the mortgage payment I made last month on my credit report. So if you take that 35% dedicated to payment history, half of those points are dedicated to payments made within the last 12 months. So the last year is huge as far as your payment history is concerned. The next 20% is dedicated to payments between 12 and 24 months ago. So the last 2 years, the last 24 months worth of payment history makes up 70% of these total points. So the last 2 years worth of payment history is absolutely crucial in your credit score. Now payment history is calculated differently depending on the different types of accounts you have. If I have an installment loan, and an installment loan is something with a fixed term and fixed payments. So it's going to be something like a student loan or an auto loan or a mortgage loan. Every month I make a payment on my installment loan. As long as that account's reporting to the credit bureaus, I'm getting credit for payment history. If I miss a payment and I go 30 days late, payment history is also where I see the penalty for that new 30-day late payment. The more recent the payment history is, the more it's worth. All right, with a revolving account, payment history is calculating a little bit differently. Revolving accounts don't actually take into account your payment every month. What they look at is the balance that's actually reported to the credit bureaus every month. So in order to get credit for payment history on a revolving account, such as a credit card, you actually have to have a minimum of 1% of your total credit limit reporting to the credit bureaus. So if I have a $200 credit card, $2 minimum must report to the credit bureaus every month in order to get credit for payment history. Now a lot of people think, well, does that mean I can't pay my credit card off completely? Doesn't mean that whatsoever. You can always pay your credit card off before your due date. Just make sure when your card reports that you have a small balance, at least 1% of your credit limit. Now the day your card reports depends on your purchase cycle. So every credit card is different, and I always recommend contacting your credit card company to figure out exactly what day of the month they're going to report you to the credit bureaus. I recently did a little test on my personal credit just to figure out exactly how many points I'm missing out on for missing out on payment history for a single month. So what I did was I took my credit card account, one of my credit card accounts, and I paid it to 0. And I kept it at a 0 balance for the entire month. My credit score actually came in about 9 points lower having a 0 balance versus the next month when I put 1% of my credit line back on that credit card. So if you're carrying a $0 balance on your credit card, you're missing out on payment history. If you've kept a credit card dormant for 5, 6, 7 months, the best thing you can do is go out and put a small purchase on that credit card and start benefiting from some recent payment history. I've seen people actually increase their score 20 to 30 points in a single month by utilizing a credit card that had been sitting dormant for an extended period of time. Another factor of payment history is any sort of delinquent account. Anytime you have any sort of derogatory, negative information on your credit report, you're taking the direct impact in payment history. Late payments, collections, tax lien, judgment, foreclosure, short sale, repossessions, profit and loss, bankruptcy. If any of these items are on your credit report, it's directly impacting you in the 35% of your score dedicated to payment history. Now the dollar amount you owe on a derogatory account has no bearing on your credit score whatsoever. So let me say that again. A $0 collection, a collection that you've paid off completely, can and will impact your credit score as much as a $100 collection or a $1,000 collection or a $10,000 collection. The dollar amount does not factor into your credit score. Remember, payment history is all about what you've done lately. The more recent you have a derogatory account on your credit report, the more it's going to impact your score. A lot of people ask me, well, Sean, certainly a bankruptcy being a big ticket item, that's going to be worth more. That's going to hurt my credit score a lot more than a 30-day late, right? And not at all. There is no dedicated point amount towards any sort of one derogatory. Think of it this way. Let's say you have Bob, and Bob's got the best credit you've ever seen. He's got 820 credit scores. And Bob, he misses a payment on his credit card today. Well, remember, 30 or 50% of those points in payment history on payments made within the last 12 months, Bob has a recent late payment. A late payment today, he's a current credit risk, right? He's probably going to see about 120 to 150 point drop to his credit score right away with one single 30-day late payment on a credit card. Now let's take Johnny over here. Johnny, he's got late payments for days. He was late when he came out of the womb when he was born, in fact. He's got judgments, he's got tax liens, he's got collections. And all of a sudden today he says, you know what? Forget this, I quit, I'm going to file bankruptcy. So he goes in, he files the bankruptcy discharges. Bankruptcy is a big ticket item, right? He may only see a 5 or 10 point drop to his credit score. Because all of those points dedicated to that 35% of his score, they've already been taken away, right, with all those other different activities that he's missed in the past. So what's another bankruptcy on top of that? They don't really throw more dirt on you while you're down. Once you're down, you're down. So the dollar amount owed on a delinquent account or a collection has no bearing on your credit score. It's all about how recent that activity occurred. So what's your activity date? What's actually factoring into a credit score? Well, when you look at a collection, let's take a medical collection. The date that I originally got reported to collections is going to be what's factoring into my credit score. So let's say in June of 2010, I had a medical collection company send me over to the credit bureaus as a collection. That's what's factoring into my credit score, the June of 2010 date, not the fact that I owe them $150. Now there's two ways that I can actually update activity on that account. And a lot of people are pretty savvy when it comes to this. A derogatory item actually impacts your credit score for 7 years, which is true. However, it's 7 years from activity date. Activity dates can be updated two different ways. First off, let's say this creditor transfers over to a different creditor. So now ABC Collection Company no longer owns my collection. They sell me off to a new collection company who goes in and reports me. That can trigger activity on that account, update that date of last activity from June of 2010 to today. That'll drop my credit score, and that account will actually start the clock over. That'll now stay on my credit report for an additional 7 years. So date of last activity is what determines what's going into your credit score and what's actually factoring in with a derogatory item. Now, date of last activity can actually be updated. And the way that you update your date of last activity is by making a payment on the account. So if I go in and I pay my medical collection from June of 2010, I pay it off in full, or maybe I settle for a lesser amount, or maybe I get on a payment plan where I'm making payments over the course of the next couple months to pay it off. Anytime a payment is made on a derogatory account, that triggers activity. So that collection from June of 2010 gets paid. Once that reports to the credit bureaus, it updates my date of last activity, causes my credit score to actually drop, and now it starts that clock over, and I'm dealing with that collection for another 7 years after that. So what do? You don't want to pay all your collections, right? I'm not necessarily saying don't pay your collections, but here's what's going to happen to your credit score when you do. Rather than going in and having our first plan of attack to pay all collections off, did you know that actually 65% of all accounts on credit reports are in violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act? So rather than paying them off and seeing a drop to your credit score, a lot of times we're able to find reporting errors within these accounts, and if they misreport, we can actually get them completely deleted from your credit report, which causes your score to increase. Rather than paying everything off and seeing a drop to your credit score, a lot of times we're able to challenge that information, find a reporting inaccuracy, and actually get the entire account deleted from your credit report. So that's all about payment history. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me. Your next plan of action is to contact me if you haven't already done so at the information below, and we can talk a little bit more about how we can help you. And as always, look out for my next videos coming shortly.